Well, hi, it's time for Pajama Medical. I have the pajamas and we're ready to go. And so tonight's topic is going to be on the types of cancers and barriers to treatment for Asian Americans. And the reason I chose this is I'm taking an online course in cancer biology, and I'm finding it incredibly interesting. I've been kind of eating it up, but one thing I guess I didn't fully know that much about cancer, and it is very genetic oriented. It is very driven by genetics. Therefore, different races do have some difference in their genetics, and therefore different races are more susceptible to different kinds of cancers. And I was just very surprised at this information that I learned. So I thought maybe I would pass some of that along to you tonight, and I have some notes to talk about the cancers that Asian Americans get, and then why, and also some barriers to treatment that they have culturally, and so let's unpack it. So in 2019 to 2023, Asian Islander women were about 22% more prevalent with being diagnosed with and also dying from stomach cancer. From 2020 to 2024, Asian Islander men were 43% more likely to have stomach cancers and actually mortality than Caucasians. In 2019, Asian Americans 40 and over were 20% less likely to get screenings. And this is one factor that is affecting the Asian American population. And there are some barriers to that. We're going to talk about it. But which types of cancers most affect Asian Americans? And there are two types that are much higher than in Western and particularly Caucasian populations, and those are stomach and liver cancer. Digestive cancers seem to be higher in Asian populations. Also lung cancer is very high because the incidence of smoking is very high for Asians. So some things that do affect Asian Americans in getting, first of all, screenings for cancer, and then second of all, treatment for cancer, is that there are a lot of cultural and social barriers. And also there are things like with the digestive cancers, H. pylori, which is an infection that sometimes later leads to stomach cancer. That is a lot higher among Asians, and also things like smoking for the lung cancer and other infections. Hepatitis B and C are higher in this population, and those can lead later to liver cancer. So there are some things that they're just more susceptible to by culture and also genetically that cause them to have a lot of more digestive cancers. Breast cancer is rising among Asian women, and there are a lot of social and cultural norms that prevent them from getting screenings, basically mammograms, and we'll talk about that. There are a lot of different things with the culture of the Asian people that kind of are barriers to getting screenings and treatment. And some of those things are, cancer has a stigma. There's a lot of, in the Asian cultures, there's a lot of emphasis on bad luck or destiny and that type of thing. And so some people feel like, why get the screening? If you're destined to get it, you'll get it. Or if you have good luck, you won't get it. If you have bad luck, you will get it. And those things don't make people as predisposed to go get the screenings for it. So when people aren't screened, a lot of times when they catch it, it's at a more advanced stage. Also, modesty, especially among women, also the men though. Sometimes cancer is associated with not only bad luck or misfortune, but impurity. And women, Asian women, have a strong culture that, a good woman doesn't expose herself. And so, some of the screenings like pap smears, mammograms, and prostate exams for the men too involve rather intimate, examination from the doctor, and they're not as likely to be open to doing that. Also, healthcare is sometimes discussed more collectively with families, and so that could also influence people about getting treatment. And sometimes in the Asian population, when like breast cancer, prostate cancer, cervical cancer, the very intimate types of cancers, they actually will hide those from the family or from people because they don't want to bring social judgment upon their family. So a lot of things, the good and bad luck thing is very prevalent in Asian culture. Now, I think after people have been Americans for a long time, it might not be as much that way, but these kind of cultural norms still exist. So they just kind of sometimes feel pointless or powerless to get the screenings. And there's a lot of distrust of Western medicine, although I can't blame them because I somewhat distrust Western medicine. But anyway, that aside, there is that. Some people would prefer more Chinese traditional ways. And interestingly enough, I'm not only taking the cancer biology course, I'm taking a course in oncology nursing issues from the Chinese perspective, from a Chinese university. And I kind of wanted to see the difference in the cultural norms. And so I hope that I'll have more feedback later on that. So the women also in Asian cultures have a lot of self-sacrifice built into them, just the history and things. And so they may feel that, well, I have it, why fight, or I have to take care of the family, I really don't have time to take care of it, or whatever, So I really wasn't aware of all this. And then there is also racism. And there's a lot of racism. I don't know how many people realize it, but racism toward Asians is very big right now in the United States. And so also racism factors in care, they exist. And I actually know a little bit about that myself, not for race, but for other reasons. So you can actually not be treated too well in medicine, sometimes because of your race or because of other things. Smoking is a big deal with Asian people. A lot of Asians smoke. In fact, the United States does probably a better job of quitting smoking than a lot of the European and Asian cultures. And so that is a very big deal. And it also, lung cancer diagnosis and mortality is growing among Asian women that don't smoke because they're exposed to it a lot. So the secondhand smoke can be just as bad as if a person does smoke. Breast cancer is rising. Now, Asians do not have as high incidence of breast cancer as Western people and Caucasians, but it is rising. and so is colorectal cancer. H. pylori is actually an infection that you can get that's a gastric infection. I've had it, actually. And that also can lead to later stomach cancers. Hepatitis B and C are also higher among Asian populations, and they can lead later to liver cancer. There is a higher usage of sodium and preserved foods. Sodium is not our friend. I found that out not too long ago myself. And so whenever people use processed or highly salted types of foods, that can cause a problem. Also, in Asian countries like China, air pollution is really bad. And so air pollution also can lead to incidence of things like lung cancer and that type of thing. And just genetic-wise, the Asian population are more open or are more susceptible to especially digestive cancers. And there are subgroups that have different, there's kind of different outcomes and different statistics for Asian subgroups sometimes. So there are community efforts at community clinics and things like that. They're a little more Asian based to try to combat this. And I didn't get too far into what was being done to combat it, but definitely something needs to happen. And I think education too among the American Asian population. So yeah, it did surprise me when I took my cancer biology course, and one of the first things is we talked about the different types of cancers, and then we talked about how it was genetically linked to different groups of people. So this was a little bit of a surprise for me. So anyway, I hope that I do hope that that was an interesting topic. I kind of had to wrestle something up fast tonight because I have had a busy, chaotic day. But we'll talk more about cancer. I'm trying to learn more about it, so we'll have more topics about it. And at some point we may talk about the genetics of it. And at some point I want to talk about leukemia. I talked about lymphoma at one point, and that's what I had, but my sister had leukemia, and so I would like to cover that at some point. But that will take a little more research on my part. So, a good evening to you, and of course I will put in links and videos for you to gather more information if you need it or you want it, and I hope this was interesting to you.